Today we are talking about your breath and how you are going to use your breath to facilitate how you speak, your conversation, the dialogue, and how your conversation is going to flow. This is very important because a lot of times people forget how to breathe when they become nervous. Um, and all of a sudden, they become hyper aware of the sensations of breathing. They suddenly feel very alienated from their body. They feel disconnected from their breath. They forget. It's almost like they all of a sudden become hyper aware of the sensation of breathing. Um, and I want to break this down for you today a bit because I want to reintroduce you to the feeling of safety to allow your breath to carry you through your speech, your conversations, your interactions, and so on and so forth. That is really going to help you. And everything that you learned about the breath um, may have been working against you. So, everything you know about breathing slower, trying to pace yourself, trying to pay attention to your breathing, etc., that may have been working against you because I have heard every advice in the world about paying attention to your breath when you're speaking, and it has never been very helpful. And it wasn't really until I figured out the sensation of how it feels safe to breathe and how it feels safe to be in my body, to be connected with my breath, and actually allowing my breath to facilitate my conversations so that I can use my breath to come back into the present, into my body, and to reconnect and to use my breath to reconnect myself with my surroundings. That is when I was able to plug back into the present moment and be able to feel safe enough to interact with other people, with the environment, with having conversations without feeling frazzled or disoriented and forget about what I'm going to say next. Um, and so I want to talk about the very moment when you start to become nervous, because I think for a lot of people, that is the highlight. That is the moment that everything kind of falls apart for them. So let's kind of zoom into that moment. Um, and I want to highlight that moment because that is the point where most of us struggle and most of us suddenly feel alienated from our body. And I use the word alienated because it's this sudden realization that uh, we have a body, but we're not very familiar with how to use this vehicle, how to use the mechanism of breathing. All of a sudden, we just become like aliens in our own body and we forget how to use our breath and connect with our breath, right? All the sensations, like even our voice, our breathing, our body temperature, our arms, our hands, our gestures, our eyes, our eyebrows, like all of a sudden that becomes like um foreign to us almost, and we become aware of everything. So I want to highlight this particular um, time, this particular moment. When you are feeling that way, I want to invite you to use your breath as um, a safe space and re-understand that breathing is not just about pacing yourself. It's not just about thinking about slowing down. It's not just about the tempo. Breathing is actually the gateway. It is the portal in which you allow yourself to experience the present moment again. So when you breathe, it's not just about the mechanism of breathing, and I want to reintroduce you to the experience of breathing. So it's not, so we're not just focused about on the mechanism of breathing. We're not just focused on the action of breathing and counting like 1, 2, 3 or slow down, and making those reminders to ourselves. But we are trying to use breathing as a gateway to reintroduce us to kind of this moment where we check in with ourselves. How are we feeling? Um, how can I feel safe in this moment? I am safe. I am here. I am reconnecting myself back with my thoughts. And in that moment, it's not trying to frantically think about what do I say next? It's not just empty space. It's not just awkward silence. And I think that it's very important for all of us to understand that breathing, like when you take a moment to breathe, it's not emptiness. And I think the thing that tends to happen with a lot of people when you get nervous is that you tend to think that breathing is empty space. There's a huge gap of time. It's awkward, it's silent, it's uncomfortable, and people are waiting for you to say something clever. Or you're trying to force yourself to remember or recall what you were going to say, what you planned to say before. But it's not for that purpose. Your breathing is the space where you um, allow yourself to feel back into safety and reconnect back with your intentions. And when you can make the focus about what am I really here to do? What am I really here to try to express? What is the energy I'm trying to um, share with people? What is the idea I'm trying to share? Then you will allow yourself to get into that space where you feel safe enough to reconnect yourself back with what you came here for in the first place. And not about, this is about the tempo, this is about slowing myself down. Everyone's expecting me to say something clever. I need to impress someone. I need to make them like me. It's no longer about that because you are now focused on yourself, and you can take as long as you want. You can take up all the space you want because you know that you are allowed to do so, and use that as a portal to come back within yourself. Um, and so there's a whole conversation about, and I come back to this topic all the time about knowing that you are allowed, you have the permission, and as a matter of fact, you have to grant yourself the permission to take up that space. Because for a lot of people who feel nervous speaking in front of others, the issue, oftentimes, and I'm not saying that this is for everyone, but most likely, if you ever find yourself rushing yourself to speak, or thinking that I need to say something clever next, or I need to say something to retain the attention of my audience, chances are you haven't been given an opportunity to speak a lot in the past, and that um, you were always put in a place where you needed permission before you're allowed to speak. Otherwise, you would be annoying someone, or you would be wasting people's time, or you would be an inconvenience to someone, whether if they're explicitly telling you, or maybe they would roll their eyes, showing you a bit of impatience. So um, that tends to be the reason why a lot of us feel like we need to say something smart or funny or entertaining or likable sooner, because we feel like we don't really have that much time. And so the next thing I say better be clever. It better be good. And so I don't want to waste time. I want to rush myself. If there's a gap, I want to make sure I don't waste it. I don't waste your time. I need to make sure that I am taking advantage of every single moment, and that's why I don't feel comfortable with taking up that space. So for you, the main point is going to be understanding that, and giving yourself the permission, and actually practicing taking up time, taking up space, um, in your interactions with other people, knowing that you don't need to wait for permission, you don't need to ask for permission to take up people's time and space. um, Not feeling and like you're an inconvenience to them. And of course, these things are going to come with practice. I didn't just learn this overnight, but for you to feel safe enough to take up that space is going to give you the opportunity to practice you using that space that you give permission to yourself with, to integrate back into the present moment. That's very important. So that's a two-step process. The first step is you need to know that you're allowed to take up other people's time and space. You need to know that you are allowed to um, have that time. You don't need to rush yourself. You don't need to speed up, right? And then using that space that you have now opened up, invite yourself to come back to a feeling of safety, um, allowing yourself to check in. How am I feeling right now? Uh, really allowing yourself to connect back with what you're here to say, what you're here to deliver, or just being here connected with the moment. Sometimes it's not just about what you're here to say, sometimes you don't really have an agenda. Um, but it could also be as simple as you just want to come back into this environment, into your body, to enjoy the moment, enjoy yourself, and really be appreciative of everything that's happening around you. That could also be the case, right? You don't always have to have something to say. You don't always have to have something to express. That's what I'm saying. So, um, yeah, I think when we use our breath differently, when we breathe more intentionally, um, we will be able to more easily reintegrate ourselves back into our body. Now, the other thing that I also want you guys to practice, and I think that this is going to be really effective for you, is practice feeling the sensation. I know this is going to sound really weird, but um, it sounded weird in my head when I thought of it. Practice feeling the sensation of breathing, um, more of a regular habit during the times when you're not speaking to others. Okay. Now, why is that important? Because when you don't really pay attention to how it feels when you breathe, when you don't really pay attention to how your voice sounds when you speak, all of a sudden, when you're speaking to other people, now you're paying attention to how you sound, right? Because now you're thinking about how are other people thinking about me when I'm speaking? How do they think about my voice? How do they think about my breath? How do they think about my pace? How do they think about my tone? Do they think that I sound nervous? Now, all your attention is going to be about the mechanism of your body. It's going to be, all the attention is going to be like up here. And the reason it's uncomfortable for you is because you normally don't always pay attention to this mechanism, um, in a day-to-day basis. So what that means is the less you focus on, or the less you are familiar, really, with the sensation of breathing, with the sensation of talking, with the sensation of, um, what it feels like to use your voice, And I know this sounds really weird because, yeah, we talk every day, but just because we talk every day and just because our vocal cords vibrate every day doesn't mean that we're paying attention to it, doesn't mean that we're using our voices intentionally. And so a lot of times we just say things, we just like make sounds without even like realizing that we were talking out loud or thinking out loud. We don't realize how it sounds in our body. We're not connected with that sensation. And so when we're talking to others, all of a sudden we become hyper aware of how people are perceiving us. And then all of a sudden we become aware of how these sensations are vibrating in our body. And so the advice that I have for you is to start paying attention to how it feels like to use your voice, to breathe, to relax using your breath every day in any moment. And you could practice this when you're washing dishes, you could practice this when you're, I don't know, filling your glass of water, when you're walking, when you're talking to the cashier, when you're saying good morning to someone, when you're walking by someone. Really feel how your breath carries you through the day, how your breath carries you through the moment, how it feels like to experience the vibration of your vocal cords, how it connects with like your upper body, your shoulders, the sensation of the relaxation of your neck. Because I promise you, the more comfortable you are with, and the more at home you feel with using this mechanism on a day-to-day basis and actually bringing awareness to comfort on this level, comfort and relaxation on this level, this area, the more you feel at home and safety in this area, the more you feel safe when you're using this area and sharing it with others. I promise you, this works. This is going to take practice. This is going to take some awareness. So, what you need to do is to pay attention to this area, right? Give yourself relaxation in this area all the time. Notice how you how you tense up this area when you speak. Notice tension. Notice how you can breathe yourself back to relax this area again, right? That is the window, that is the gateway of freedom for you. This is going to free up so much tension, it's going to free up so much energy, it's going to free up all the overthinking and really allow you to enjoy the moment of connecting with yourself and other people again. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.